order. We're in the council chambers at City Hall. It's 4 p.m. on Thursday, October 5th, 2023. With that, if we just go around the room here and identify ourselves.
I'm Dennis Pollock, Ward 6.
Ryan Austin, committee member, District 1 Alderman.
Dean Benneman, District 2 Alderman.
Joe Eichstead, City Engineer.
Carrie Edmondson, Associate Planner.
Thank you. With that, we can go to item number 2, and that's review the engineering and street department monthly activity reports. Joe, are you going to do them both, or?
Yep, I'm going to cover both. Paul wasn't sure if he'd be able to make it back here in time.
Okay.
So I'll just address some of the highlights from our road projects, and then, of course, if there's any other questions or things that we need to solicit feedback from Paul, we can get those questions to him. So for the month of September, highlights from our road projects: Oak Street, we finished the last 4 blocks with the restoration, installing topsoil, seeding, and finalized the portions of that project. It was paved just yesterday and this morning, so that should be opening up likely tomorrow. As for 9th Avenue, very similar as Oak Street, finalized the restoration of that project, and that was paved today. They may be just wrapping that up right now. In addition, Shorewood Terrace, that's ready for curb and gutter, which may begin tomorrow. But otherwise, all the underground utility work has been done there for well over a week. Apricot and Broadway is also underway, primarily on Broadway and kind of heading up the hill on Apricot Street. They're just finalizing the underground work there this week, and graveling, putting road base in behind them, and then preparing for curb and gutter, hopefully then next week. So that's the highlights from the Public Works Department. As I mentioned, if there's any questions, we can get those to Paul. As for the engineering department, we've been kind of working on changing some of the signal operations, reinstating overnight flash operations where appropriate, and so as time allows, reprogramming those to flash overnight from 11:30 p.m. to 6 a.m. In addition, we've put together a travel time study along the expressway to get some data essentially on stops and travel time across the expressway from Grand Avenue all the way over to 16th Street in an effort to check our signal timing and see where any deficiencies might exist where we can make some improvements. In addition, with our preliminary surveys for future road projects, we completed the survey for Wiley Street, the 2-block extension from 10th Street to 12th Street. And we've started the East Jackson Street survey as well, which is currently underway. Design for 9th Street in 2024. That's essentially going to be wrapped up sometime next week, and then we'll be focused on the Lincoln Street design almost exclusively for probably the remainder of this fall. Let's see. Regarding the 1 Mile Creek project, we did return some further information the DNR was asking for earlier in September. Waiting to hear back from them on that, and then in regards to the dam permit, the DNR, we're continually checking with them to try to solicit any feedback or further response from them, and that's a continual process that's been going on for quite some time, but we'll continue to do that and try to get those permits secured. And then the signal project at West Grand and the Expressway, That's currently underway. The contractor just got temporary traffic signals operational today, and then starting Monday of next week, for the entire week, there'll be single lane closures, southbound outside lane on the expressway, and single lane closure on eastbound on West Grand. For the duration of the week, they've got to put in a concrete base in the southwest corner of the intersection and get some of the new signal heads installed. In addition, we'll be submitting our SDP urban applications this month. The urban group met last week here at City Hall, and the two projects that the city has applications for were the only two projects presented. So those will be the applications that we submit here at the end of October. That concludes the monthly update.
Thank you, Joe. Any questions or comments by anybody? Ryan?
Just one on signal timing, particularly the expressway. It just seems like something we're tinkering with, off and on a lot. Is that, I guess, what is the reason? Is it equipment related, or does the timing eventually fall off, or can you explain that a little bit?
Sure. So we retimed the expressway. I think the last time we retimed it was we did two different segments. One segment of the city's intersections were retimed in 2018, and then the other segment was in 2020. So I can't recall exactly which one was which, but it's sometime within the last few years we retimed the expressway. So since that time, we haven't made any adjustments. The overnight flashing operations, that we went away from that with the new timings, just because there's a recommendation coming out of the state, primarily for state highways. And so it was, with the retimings, it was, we can remove the flashing. There have been some complaints on that, validated that we can reinstate those in certain locations, so we've done some traffic counts just to validate current traffic volumes and reinstating them where appropriate. In addition, I guess just the equipment itself doesn't necessarily change. It requires, adjustments to timing, but traffic patterns do change over time. So for instance, if we did our counts and retime during the part of the pandemic, well, now that we're post that time frame, traffic patterns could easily have shifted just as they did during that time frame. In addition to that, there are some equipment malfunctions that can push the signals out of coordination. For instance, the PED buttons, the pedestrian push buttons, if they fail, in a state that they're always constantly putting in a call. It's for safety reasons that occurs. So if there's, and from time to time we find push buttons that do fail. Inevitably, we're not constantly checking those, and we're not noticed by the equipment that there's a failure with those. So it's usually, hey, something doesn't seem quite right here with this signal, and then we go out and check. We might find a PED button that has failed, or some other reason. But that's an instance where equipment could change the timings.
Okay. If there's nothing else, we can go on to item number 3. Review and consider approval of a public art crosswalk at the intersection of Lincoln Street and Birch Street, Peach Street. Carrie, I believe that's yours.
Yep, thank you, Chair Rayom and members of the Public Works Committee. I really appreciate you hearing this item tonight. So the background on this proposal is we have done some work, as I'm sure you're well aware, in the last few years on our bicycle and pedestrian infrastructure and safety. So we were able to partner with 1,000 Friends of Wisconsin on a Safe Routes grant in the last couple years that worked to address active transportation, which of course is walking and biking gaps to schools and parks. And as part of this work, it was noted that the MAP pedestrian routes in the city are in need of enhancement, both from a safety standpoint and from a placemaking standpoint. So some of the recommended safety enhancements were things like wider sidewalks, tactile indicators for ADA ramps that are more enhanced, repainting crosswalks and installing pedestrian crossing signs. And of course, the infrastructural improvements are quite expensive and they tend to take more planning. But there were also placemaking enhancements recommended, which included things like wayfinding signage, which we've installed a lot of that recently, and then placemaking efforts such as sidewalk art or a story walk to highlight the established pedestrian route. And then in addition to that, within the Community Development Department, we have recently created a public art and creative placemaking plan with a pretty broad stakeholder group. And what came from that is there were 5 goals that included creating art that is inclusive, art that reflects diversity and employs a diverse base of artists, and then meaningful art that fosters community connection, to develop and expand the public art inventory with a variety of projects. There was kind of an influx of public art, like maybe around 15 years ago with some of the historic murals that were put downtown, and recently it's kind of lagged. And then also to utilize public art to create a sense of place and activate space. So the proposed project would be done with Angela O'Day heading it up, and she is a case manager, youth diversion supervisor for Wood County Human Services. And she has worked on a variety of projects in the area, and she's also in early talks with Rise Up out of Wausau, which basically what the program is you can take a group of artists and they all contribute to one art piece. So everybody kind of has their little part of it. So she has done, they have completed a mural, and I have a couple photos. It's the photos in here with the butterfly. So it's an internal mural at the Macmillan Memorial Library. And then she's also done one, and they are working on another one at Edgewater Haven in Port Edwards. So she definitely has experience coordinating a team and completing art with a team on it, which is good. So this project would include that group. So it is a way to increase safety and walkability. It also provides a way to engage justice-involved youth in the community in the transformation and beautification process, and helps them to see themselves as valuable contributing members of society. Because of the proximity to the library, they have a very good relationship with the library staff, and they've also talked about making it into like a family or teen night where people could be invited to come and help with the painting. So they're looking at different possibilities, but they do want to involve a group of people to help with the project. So the design on the project is page 3 of 5. It's the top, kind of like water waves, and it basically is 2 paint colors. It's the lighter blue and the darker, or maybe it's 3 shades of blue. It could be 3 shades. It actually is a darker, a middle, and a light. And part of the reason for the limited colors is very, very expensive. The paint is very expensive to get the quality that's made for crosswalks. And the photo below that shows the type of paint they're looking at. This is an example of a crosswalk that was painted with that paint. So I just wanted to include that and note that it is a high quality, high grade paint that's created just for public projects such as this. And the proposed project would be along the city's MAP pedestrian route, southeast of the library in the photo on 2 of 5. They're doing, it's not exactly north-south, but kind of the one most north-south-ish adjacent to the library, which connects kind of our downtown to Witter Park, which is the reason I'm sure that's the MAP pedestrian route, is 2 places of high activation. It is that specific crosswalk, and they're just wanting to start with the one because it actually is kind of a large area. So that is the location, and they currently are seeking project funding. They're actually wanting to apply for a federal grant, a $1,500 grant that's open at this time. which is why it's at the committee now. The timeline for the project would be proposed for late summer of 2024, which staff thinks would coordinate nicely with the Lincoln Street reconstruction project. Hopefully, it could be incorporated just at the tail end while the street's still closed, and there wouldn't need to be an additional street closure if we could get that coordinated, which should be pretty easy to do if we could give them, a good lead time in terms of the timing. So just in summary, it's proposed at the intersection of Lincoln Street and Birch Street, Peach Street, and it does encompass all of the defined goals in the public art and creative placemaking plan. It includes a broad base of valued community members and employs a diverse artist base. And it is a prime example of creating community connection that will in turn help to activate and define the MAP pedestrian route and to expand the public arts inventory within the city. And I'm available for questions, and I'll turn it back over to Chair Rayom.
Thank you, Carrie. I guess Joel will start with maybe here. Do you have any comments on that from the engineering street department
Sure.
perspective?
Yeah, there's a few things that, certainly there's requirements that need to be met, which, the proposed design does meet. Some of those would include we need to have the white crosswalk line still painted, and so the artwork would have to reside within that border, that white border. In addition, the types of colors used, we'd have to just make sure that they're not conflicting with the types of colors used for like school zones and warning devices and otherwise already utilized by other road signage and pavement marking, which the three shades of blue are fine. No issues there. In addition, just picking the standard width that the crosswalk doesn't, the artwork doesn't become large, which I think the city would probably be painting the white normal white crosswalk ahead of any artwork that is put in place. So that's not really an issue either. And then lastly, that the artwork isn't a distraction, which if they stay within a normal crosswalk width, I don't believe that it would present itself as a distraction for drivers.
Thank you. Anybody, questions from anybody or anything, or comments, thoughts? Ryan? Oh, Dennis, okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The only question I have, how long does it take to paint the crosswalk? Will they get it done in a day or a couple of days, or how long on an average?
I think that's close. I think it'd be more than a day because they do recommend sealing it as well. And I think the design would have to dry and then the sealant would be applied and that would dry. But I would think, a long weekend, like a few days in succession would be sufficient.
Okay, then the roads or the street would have to be closed off for whatever time period we'd be looking at then. You wouldn't want to have traffic coming across there, I don't think.
Yeah, it would, for this, and it could be staged. They could paint a portion of it, one day and a portion of it another day and stage traffic control. Ideally, if it works out this way, is that Lincoln Street will be reconstructed in 2024, and if it's towards the end of the construction season, towards fall or late summer, that the road might still be closed or could easily be closed and managed the same activities, construction activities, along with the artwork.
Okay, thank you.
Ryan, now?
Yeah, just a comment. I'm fine with this particular location. I think the proximity near the library makes it a bit more fitting. I'm not sure about other locations throughout town, but this one I'm good with. So, thanks.
Is there any, estimate, with our weather that we have of how long this would last, the changing seasons that we have, the snow in the wintertime, salt and all that, so
Yeah, that's a great question. So I looked on the Paint website and tried to find a defined time, and they say several years. And I know there are a lot in, comparable cities, and I was just in Milwaukee the last couple weekends, and there's a lot there. There's a really good asphalt art guideline. It's like a 100-page guide out. It's a Bloomberg guide, and it's based out of New York City because they've done a lot of stuff. And they recommend power washing prior, which I think would be good that it's a brand, a new street, and then sealing. And they say also that it can last several years. But I've also seen in other cities where they do wear off if they're not maintained. And this group already has some good ideas for maintenance, whether it's with their own group of kids, or they've even talked about maybe reaching out to the high school art class, or if they could, do something for maintenance. I think worst case scenario, we would know, after several years' time, it could slowly wear off. And if the street's resealed and it doesn't continue, then it doesn't continue. It wouldn't necessarily be hopefully it would stay around, but I think with this type of art, we would just know that, at some point it may go away, and that's okay, if it came to that.
thank you. Anybody else? Otherwise, I guess we can turn it over to the committee for recommendation.
Do we need to take action on this, or?
I'm just saying that I got, because in our, consider approvals in the,
Yes, I think this committee would take action, is my understanding, and then the final would be at council.
All right, well, I'd make a motion to approve the proposed public art at the crosswalk at the intersection of Lincoln Street and Birch Street.
I'll second it. I think this is a good project.
okay, a motion and a second. I'll just, I believe it's going to pass through here, and probably we'll see what happens at the council, but as this goes on, to keep us informed of things that may come up or whatever, changes in plans or something, so we're ahead of time, and hopefully it can coincide with the reconstruction project, so that would work out good in that way, in that sense. So, no other comments or anything. Committee will vote. All in favor, respond by aye.
Aye.
Opposed, ayes have it. Thank you. Thank you, Kerry. Item number 4, consider a preliminary resolution for public work and improvements on McKinley Street between 8th Avenue North and 14th Avenue North, proposed for construction in 2025. Joe?
So I think this is the last preliminary resolution that we have to get to the committee for the next 2-year time frame. McKinley Street is, it's the underground utilities, including the road surface, are all of which are in need of improvement. It is identified in the 5-year capital improvement plan, and then just as a reminder, along with previous preliminary resolutions, it's an authorization to notice the public of the upcoming improvement, as well as a milestone for us to begin design type activities. So notice, if approved, the notice will be sent directly to each of the property owners listed in the resolution, and we'd be requesting that the committee approve the preliminary resolution as noted in the packet.
Okay, anybody have any questions of Joe or anything first? Okay. Any committee you wanna, I guess, thoughts of what we wanna do with it?
I'll make a motion to approve the preliminary resolution.
I'll
as
second
noted.
that. We have a motion and a second to approve the preliminary resolution. If there any other comments or anything from the committee or questions or anything? Okay, seeing none, We'll vote. All in favor, respond by aye.
Aye.
Opposed, ayes have it. Thank you. Number 5 is review the referral list. As I looked at this, I guess ahead of time, I didn't see any, at least my memory is, didn't see any that we'd be taking off or anything. So, does anybody have any additions or anything at this point in time? Okay, then we can go to item number 6, and that's to set the next meeting date. And I believe as I looked at this, it'd be Thursday, November 9th. Is that correct? I believe if we go back to our original thing, I think it's the first Thursday after the first Tuesday, if I remember right. But looking on my thing, that's one of our committee of the whole meetings, if that's the date. I have no idea what would be on our agenda at that point in time for our November meeting, Public Works, but actually the November 9th one, committee of the whole, I think, is involving our Public Works discussion, I think, that evening anyway, but.
And I think the, that particular date, I think there's, for a time, similar to this meeting this month, rather than a 5 PM, I think a 4 PM works because of the other committee of the whole meeting that's scheduled that day, as long as that works for the committee.
Would that work for everybody right now? We'd have to, make sure with our agenda that it's something that we feel we can get done by 5 o'clock. So we wouldn't extend too far over. We don't want to do that into the committee of the whole's meeting at 5, so. Okay, if there's nothing there, we'll plan on October 9th, Thursday at 4 PM. And we'll keep you posted if there's a need to change or anything, so. With that,
That committee of the whole is not till 6 that day.
oh, is it 6 o'clock? Maybe
Yeah.
I looked wrong. Oh, thank you on that. Okay. Tentatively, we'll go at 4. We'll see. Maybe we can, as long as everybody's going to be here, maybe we can push it back to 5, which would work better if it's going to be a short meeting. So, okay. Thank you, everybody. We're to item 7, which would be a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second. All in favor, respond by aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, ayes have it. Thank you. We're adjourned at, well, it's 4:33 on the clock in the back. If that, how close that is, I don't know. Thank you.